So we are live. Thank you for joining on this weekly edition of Visibility. I guess it's visibility made easy or easier, because whether you are just getting started in your professional career, whether you've been in it for a while, maybe you've been looking to kind of move around and move sideways, or maybe you're looking on the up. Wherever you are in that, I hope that this live stream will offer some help and some support. So who might you be? Thank you, first of all, for those of you who send in, comments, who comment underneath, who send me messages. Truly and greatly appreciated. So you might be an employed professional. It could be that you have now kind of grounded yourself in your profession, established yourself in the industry that you want to be in, but you're looking for ways to enhance and develop your career. You're not interested in going to another company. You're not interested in going into another industry. You're just looking really at how to progress your career. So this live stream specifically, I can't speak today, is just for you. However, if you're watching me live, and there's two places that you'll currently be able to watch me. One is on LinkedIn and the other is on YouTube. So the first thing that I have to say, thank you for your comments. As some of you have been commenting live, some of you have been commenting after the live event, and some of you, it's like days later that you're commenting. Just remember that if you're watching this throughout August 2022, I am not active on social media for the whole of August. I'm very active in life, very active in business, and very active speaking to lots of you, finding out about your challenges within your organization. But expect me to respond in September. However, if you are watching over my YouTube channel, please subscribe, because as well as these weekly streams, you'll see lots of other really cool things going on there, lots of content, lots of things of interest, mainly around being visible. I am the visibility queen. And I guess if you are watching this for the first time and you're thinking, who on earth is this woman? I've literally just taken my hair out of a ponytail. So I will keep stroking my hair. It seems to be a signature part of my brand for some reason. But my name's Jenny Kovacs, as you can see down there. I'm actually nicknamed internationally and known as the Queen of Being Seen. And why is that? I help you to raise your professional profile. I help you to put yourself out there, and I help you to feel far more visibly confident than you might have felt before. So that's all I'm going to say for now. If you want to find out more, do check out some of the videos on my YouTube channel, and check out some of the content that I've posted all over social media. So as I start this stream, this morning, some trucks arrived outside and have been tidying up the gardens around here. So characteristically, as I go live, you can hear lots of banging and clanging in the background. Please don't be put off. It's life. And for many of you who are working from your office, working from home, life will seemingly happen as you're doing your thing as well. So here's a couple of things that I wanted to talk about today. I hear a lot, either from you directly, especially for those of you who have private coached or mentored with me. You know that you have lots to offer. You know that. You know that people love your work, but sometimes you feel like the interest in what you do is tiny and small, but you've got your eye on something way bigger. You might describe yourself as driven. You might describe yourself as ambitious. You might even describe yourself as a go-getter. Either way, the thing that you want to go into or grow into feels a bit smaller than the where you see yourself being, and that's okay. The next thing that people often say to me is, oh, you know what, I was in this meeting and I was trying to make this point and I just ended up rambling. Or they said, I came up with a solution and I was trying to explain it, but as I explained it, they just looked, maybe I confused them in some way. Or you might simply be wondering how to make not only a splash or a bigger splash. Maybe you are already visible, maybe you already make an impact, but you want to like make a bigger wave. create a bigger ripple effect and make a bigger splash. And for many of you who run your own businesses or are founders of businesses, and maybe even have staff to look after, you'll be wanting them to do this too. And you'll be wanting to do this in a bigger way, because for you, you know, how you put yourself out there, how you raise your profile is really important for you, your business, and the staff to really have an effect. So if this is you or someone you know, make sure they see this video, you know, share it with them, get them to subscribe, or get them to have a watch. So for all of those things, you have lots to offer, you love your work, you feel like you're, you know, really ambitious, but maybe feeling stifled. You've heard yourself ramble in meetings. You've maybe thought, people are a bit confused with what I do, or people are a bit confused with what I can bring to the table, or wanting to make a splash. Visibility with a capital V. Because we can break it down, and in fact I will in just a few moments. We can break it down and have visibility work for you. So here's what visibility isn't. Visibility isn't you having to take on very extrovert tendencies or behaviors, having to shout and scream. Visibility isn't you having to make the kind of impact that literally knocks people off their perches, hits them sideways, where you shove in and make your presence known. And visibility isn't your ability to be talkative, to be louder than somebody else, to have your voice be heard regardless of what anyone else is saying. Okay, it's none of that. You know, even in the entrepreneurial and business space, I've heard people be told, oh, well, if you swear a bit, you know, if you become an influencer and you swear, or you become really, what's the word I'm looking for? Very controversial in your approach, that will make you stand out. Or, you know, I know you've always wanted blue hair, have blue hair and swear and shout and wear bright clothes. None of that makes you visible. Well, at least it doesn't make you visible for the reasons that you want to be visible. And the good news is you don't have to do or be any of those things. In fact, I'd like to say this is visibility done differently. Visibility done differently in a very authentic way, which has you get the results that you want. So a word to the wise, the results that you want when it comes to being visible, especially raising your professional profile, putting yourself out there for your career, will be different to the person even sat next to you. If you're sitting at your desk with your earphones in, maybe you're traveling and, you know, listening to this on the train or commuting or something like that, maybe you're even walking the dog or getting ready to pick kids up from school. All of these things, it doesn't matter where you're listening, all of these things will be very different for each person, with slight nuances depending on what you do, who you're doing it to or with, and the kind of credibility that you want to build. So I want to say that off the bat, because so many people see other people doing well, doing brilliant things, and think, I want to emulate them and I have to emulate them. And what happens is they lose themselves as part of the process. So how do you reverse that? What do you do to reverse this? Now, I'm really, really passionate about this. I'm passionate about this topic, and I'm passionate about these various steps, of which there are a gazillion. I'm going to share 3 with you today. But I'm passionate about them because I know what it feels like to be professionally passed over. That could be passed over for a promotion. It could be passed over for a referral. It could even be passed over and literally ignored. And I was sharing with a friend of mine very recently, the reason I do this work as the Queen of Being Seen isn't for me to be seen. It's for you to be seen by the people you want to be seen by and to be heard. And at the very kind of start of that whole process is our ability to recognize where we're perhaps not being seen in the way that we would like to, or we're not being heard in the way that we would like to. So if you're getting feedback, i.e. people keep saying to you, you're this thing, and they say it repeatedly over and over again, there's a balance in taking notice of what they say, because that's feedback. There is no such thing as failure, only feedback. But also there's a piece to still be who you are and to embrace and enhance and have this be an integral part of your professional or personal development too. This is really important, more so for you. So with all of that to say, I'm going to flip back. I've got some notes that I've written down here. I say notes. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 words. How's that? Because the stuff is already in my brain and I'm sharing it with you. So if you're not being seen and not being visible with a capital V, and definitely not being heard, being ignored in some way, without it, you may as well be invisible. I know that sounds dramatic, but it's 100% true. So here's what you do. You watch this. So kudos to you for watching this either live or on the replay. And let me know at the end of this, what's your biggest takeaway? What's the thing that you're going to take away most? It could be something that's new to you and you're thinking, oh yeah, this is definitely very new and I definitely want to implement it. So it might be that. It might be something that you've heard before and you think, you know what? I am going to put this in place. So something that I've heard before, because I've said it before, is when there's sirens outside, when there's workmen outside, when there's scraping outside, continue and carry on, acknowledge it and look at how you can build on that. So rather than pretend that the noise isn't going on in the background, I'm acknowledging it. I'm letting you know there's a few seconds where that noise was there. Would I have it there by choice? No. But once it's there, I might as well take this opportunity to show you live from a visibility perspective what to do with that noise, because it happens. For some of you, especially as you've been working from home or a hybrid part of that, it could be a colleague, a child, a kitten, a pet that walks past. And often we actually don't have any way to control that. The only thing we need now to kind of finish the set of this is to have maybe a delivery at the door. Bang, 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 bang. You know the one, in which case then somebody else will go and answer the door. But it is what it is. Okay. So dramatic but true. I don't want you to feel invisible. I don't want you to be invisible. And the reason that I do this work is because I want you to be able to be seen and to be heard, to be noticed. And I know that some of you struggle with different elements of how best to do that within your industry, within your organization, how best to do that without coming across as maybe too pushy or aggressive. And for some of you, your wish or your desire means that you want to tick that box, the ambitious box, the go-getting box, the alpha box, whatever it feels like for you. You want to tick that box, but you want to do it in a way that serves you and a way that serves your organization and your industry as well. So this is why I share the things that I do. So today I'm going to share 3 things that I alluded to in the description of this. I talked about rambling, when so many people say to me, oh, I was in a meeting, I was making my point and I started off okay and then I just rambled. I always ramble and then the whole thing goes on from there. The other thing people have said to me before, sometimes in group settings where I've gone in and done group trainings, and team building days and things like that, sometimes on a one-to-one basis where people have worked with me personally and they've just said, you know what, I explained this thing in a meeting and I thought it sounded okay, but when I think about it, they looked really confused. I didn't really understand what I meant, and whatever that thing does for you afterwards. Or maybe I didn't put myself in the best position to get the job that I wanted. I didn't position myself in the best way, and that's okay. I'm going to talk about what to do with that. Maybe you want to make a splash. Now, there's a big myth which is being perpetuated by the conversation about the Great Resignation. Okay, and I kind of want to speak to the elephant in the room. The Great Resignation presupposes that in order to get your career kick-started and catapulted, in order to go for those promotions or even the pay rises, in order for you to be putting your value out there, that the only way that you can really do it, and yes, I'm doing air quotes, really do it, the only way that you can really do that is to leave the company that you're in and go somewhere else, when in fact, this is not true. It's likely that you can do it internally. And before some of you start screaming at me, oh, but you don't know the company that I work for, I'm going to say very lovingly, it's not always about them. Sometimes it's about us. Even it could be about you. With a few tweaks of your skills, your behaviors, your knowledge, you'll find ways to navigate that, so that if you're in a company, in an industry that you love, you don't necessarily need to jump ship and go somewhere else. You can stay exactly where you are and hone the skills that you've got to get the job that you want, the position that you want, the tasks that you want, the team that you want, the board level, place that you want, the seat on Xcode that you want. But it all starts with you. So I'm going to go through these three things. The first thing that I want to say, as with everything, I am the creator of something called the Visibility Activator system. And that Visibility Activator system allows you to be seen and heard and visible. It's essentially got 5 key pillars, and some of those pillars are split into two because I didn't want to leave any of the juicy stuff out. It's not that you have to do absolutely everything in one go underneath the 5 pillars. It's that on some of the pillars, it may be in your wheelhouse, your strength, your area of strength, your zone of genius. But in other areas, it might be something that you would benefit from really building on, looking to build on, looking to strengthen. So out of those 5 pillars, underneath each 5, some of them have got kind of different segments. So what I'm going to do, under segment 1 is V. If you think of the word vibes, under segment 1 is V. V for visibility, and that's what we're going to go a little bit deeper into today. We might touch a little bit on impact as well. So when you are being visible, when you are being seen, one of the places that you actually start from isn't the visibility piece itself. So many people will try to pick my brains when I may be speaking at a conference or speaking or sharing at a business group or a networking event. And what they'll go straight to, which is understandable, they'll go straight to so what do I need to do? What do I need to say? I've even had calls online, video calls, where the thing I see the most is the pen and the head, someone taking lots of notes, because what I share is valuable. But if you start from this is the thing I need to do, what happens is you now know what you need to do, but you don't necessarily know how to do it for you. Why don't I share that on these freebies? Because there's so many different ways it can go, depending on who you are, your industry, what you want to achieve, the why of why you want to achieve it. Depends on which route we take. It's a bit like 10 people standing in a park somewhere, and you all want to achieve different things. Some of you might want to walk up hills, some of you might want to walk on the flats, some of you might want to walk in the shade of the trees, some of you might want to go and see the flowers. I'm not going to give you a map that's going to say everybody has to go all the way around everything if it's not bespoke for you. And visibility is exactly the same. So the first thing I spoke about is that feeling of rambling. Now, the reason why that happens is clarity, not necessarily because you're unclear, but with a certain amount of clarity, walking through that park with your plan, you're headed straight to the flower gardens, or you're headed straight to the trees and the wooded areas, or that you're headed straight to the hills because that's where you want to challenge yourself. So depending on where you want to get to, start with the end in mind. Start with the end in mind, because it will help you to navigate a plan. So visibility is no different. If you feel like in a meeting you've rambled, you might have thought long and hard about the point you want to make, but like any journey, there's a stop point. If you think of I've got marathon running on the brain at the moment. If you think of a marathon runner, when they get to the end of the marathon, the end of the race, the finishing line, very rarely do they literally get up to the line and just stop. They need to pass the line. And when we ramble and we do that without having a clear start with the end in mind, all that happens is we reach our finishing line and we continue, because we may or may not, but we may have thought about where we're heading to and where the end point is. But we haven't thought about how we'll navigate that, what that will look like, how we know we've got there. So in my Superhuman program, there's a whole piece on this, whole piece on goal setting, so that in any given moment, in any given time, you can know where that end is and stop there. Hopefully that makes sense. So if you don't want to ramble, don't only think about, well, where am I going with this? Think about your end point. And when you look at this, you'll notice that there are 3 or 4, sometimes more points that you could end. Okay, so then if you choose to end there, you won't feel like you rambled. You've made your point and then you can move on. There are a few more other things you can do, but for the interest of time and knowing where my end point is, I'm going to take you to part 2. So we talked about confusion, that feeling when you've maybe come up with what's felt like a great idea or solution, and either people have seemed confused by it or it's just gone over their heads, leaving you feeling like you haven't been heard. Maybe you're feeling like you've been ignored, and generally speaking, it doesn't feel good to you or for you. So if that is you, how can you reduce the confusion element or the confusion factor that might come from someone else? So a couple of things you can do. Think about the people that it's aimed to. If you think about this logically, especially if you're within an organization, if you've been tasked by the board to do something in your senior management, the way in which you explain that solution to the senior management will slightly be tweaked and slightly differ from the way you might talk about the solution to the junior team. You might not even be speaking to the junior team about it. Maybe, and again, starting with the end in mind, there's an end point that needs to be raised before it can be kind of more widely shared throughout the organization. And I see this a lot when I go into corporates, because sometimes you've got different departments, and one of the biggest bugbears, I think, for anyone at the top of an organization is the feeling that their organization are working in silos. Even worse, for the people within the different departments, feeling like another department doesn't understand what you do, doesn't get you, doesn't kind of run alongside you. So this is if you've noticed within your industry, or more within your organization or within your teams, or even within yourself, that you seem to work in silos, don't worry, it can be fixed. The fix isn't, oh, I better see what other jobs are out there, this is driving me crazy. It's not that. It's just looking at the people and the departments and speaking to those as well. Sometimes it might be the same message, but other times, you will need to differentiate between that. And again, there's a whole piece on communications, which not only do I really tap into in the 5 pillars, we go deeply on the 2nd pillar so that you can make an impact with that. And also on the 5th pillar, we talk about how you speak about it, depending on where it is. Are you in a meeting? Are you giving a presentation? Are you in a one-to-one? Are you receiving the one-to-one or giving, holding the one-to-one? What is it that you're doing? Depends on how you can lay that down. Okay. So then the next bit, we talk about making a splash. So once you've got your plan in place, which is it's actually quite easy to do because it's all based on you. When it becomes difficult to do, it's because you're trying to put in so many different factors. And the thing that I've learned over the years as I've coached and mentored and worked with people close up, personal and individually, is quite often it's hard for us as individuals to know exactly what we want. We have an idea, a big idea of what we want, but to get clarity and gain clarity on that on an individual level it's really great to have somebody to bounce that idea back off. And quite often as professionals, we spend a lot of time at work, and any other time we spend is with our friends and family. So naturally, we'll tend to bounce the ideas off them. I see this more so in the business community, but also in the corporate community. All it does is it drives your friends and families crazy. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with because their partner or their spouse has said, well, in a few cases, they've said, go and speak to Jenny because they know I'm good at this sort of thing. Or they've said, you need to go and speak to somebody. If I hear you talk about this one more time, it's going to drive me crazy, So having somebody that you can speak to about how you want to make a splash is actually very helpful. Now, the strange thing for me is I know that I don't work in your organization, but I've worked now with like thousands of different businesses, companies, organizations, networks, institutions. I've worked with so many of them. I've got a really great handle on the nuances of the different ways that they operate. So when somebody from this particular organization comes to me and says, I want to make a splash, this is the job that I really want to explode in. I want to manage people well. I want to communicate well. I want to be successful, make impact, be effective. Then what we can do is put a plan in for them. Sometimes it's for the team and sometimes it's for the organization. But this then can align to whatever the strategic objectives are of that organization. So you're not then going off into silos. Everything's quite synchronized. You still have the ability and the autonomy to be yourself, but you're being successful for you, for the company, for the industry. So it's a win-win-win situation. So when you're looking at making a splash, once you've got your vision of where you want to go, you don't even need to know the nuances of how. Then you can start taking the next steps forward to start making a splash, depending on you, depending on your departments, depending on your industry, depending on what you do. I could wax lyrical about this for a long time, but remember that I'm back here every Tuesday. So, come and join the topic. And if the topic is one that could really help somebody, maybe somebody within your team, then by all means, please, please, please share this with them. Don't keep this a secret. And if you are into Clubhouse or trying to get into Clubhouse and trying to work out how it all works, then join me after this on a Tuesday where I host a room just for 30 minutes. You can come in and literally ask me anything. And this week, with all the changes and the positive changes that have been made in Clubhouse, I'm going to be talking more about how to make the most out of Clubhouse. So I can't wait to see you on the next video. If you or somebody within your organization wants to speak to me about the superhero program or the visibility activator system and how it could enhance the performance of teams, of leaders, of the service teams, then definitely go over to jennykovacs.com. Have a look on there and you can actually schedule an appointment with me, or go to the Queen of Being Seen. And especially if you're more of a business owner, founder, looking after a team, then go over to the queenofbeingseen.com and you can schedule an appointment to speak to me or somebody on my team, and we'll be able to discuss what to do and where to go next. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing. Bye for now.